Hey everybody. So today I really want to have a look at this match between Krill and Rabbit Hole that I thought was very interesting and would provide for us an interesting video. I actually saw this match originally on stream, but didn't really think too much of it initially. And it was only when I was VOD reviewing with some people on this team Rabbit Hole that I was able to more appreciate the what was going on in this match, because I think there's a lot of things that would be really interesting to bring up and has a lot of good examples of things that I've wanted to talk about for a while. So this match is just to provide some context, this is a match from Frostbite Ascent Chill Season 2024. We're going to be looking at the first match in the bracket reset of Glacier bracket, which is like the lower of the two brackets. It's the match that it's against Krill Rabbit Hole. These guys have played at least 2 sets before this. And yeah, I wanted to look at the first match because it has something very interesting, and it caused quite a bit of excitement on stream, I think. But yeah, I was VOD reviewing with Rabbit Hole, and I think there's a lot to potentially take away from it, and it showcases a lot of good examples of stuff that I have wanted to see people implement in their gameplay for a while. So obviously this video is going to be centered around clam blitz, and we're going to talk a lot about how the mode works at a more fundamental level, and also how to maximize pushes and create really effective scoring environments, and do what Krill Switch are able to do, which was create a 100-point push in one go. Yeah, so we'll have a look. Before I do that, though, I'll link the full match in the description. But we will watch just very quickly the just the push itself, because it's a very short push, which is part of the awe factor of it. But it's pretty much about 20 seconds. Well, it has a lot of build up, but the actual scoring occurs in about 20 seconds, and it just snowballs so fast. So let's have a watch.
They're gonna just be sitting ducks, waiting for Rabbit Hole to kind of take them out, or will they flip it on its head and slowly push in?
Ooh, unfortunate for Krill Switch. The power clam not quite reaching the basket, but they've got plenty of positioning to save it, and if they can, they'll get a lot of points. They do. We've got 6 clams in position for Meat Boy as well. They're just throwing them in one after the other. The scoreline is so close.
Oh
We've only
my
got
god!
11
And they managed to take back the lead with only
That's
2 more clams.
100
There's 1 more
points.
clam left. It seems like they take the game.
I love the commentators, by the way.
100 points on Barnacle and Dime in a single.
They made it very entertaining. But yeah, it's 100-point pushes on clams, I guess, are somewhat rare, but I feel like people don't really recognize like what goes into making really big pushes in clams. People just sort of like rock up with clams in their hands and are like, oh, I guess I'm scoring now. So I wanted to watch back this. We'll look at the replay and watch back and break down what were the things in place that allowed Krill Switch to pull off a score like that. I don't really think everything I'm going to talk about is intentional. I definitely don't. Some of the best players in the world probably aren't. Like, it's very, one of the I guess difficulties of trying to master clam blitz is like there's a lot of factors almost going on behind the scenes that are very like, it's very hard to stay on top of. So I definitely don't think all of these things that I'm going to talk about were like intentionally done by Krill Switch, but I think they did decently well in at least like giving themselves the opportunity to maximize their score. You know, there might have been a little bit of luck in actually getting 100 points in one push, but regardless, still was going to be a big push either way. So let's have a look at this match. Let me make sure I'm on the right thing. Okay. So just for some context of this match, we rabbit hole on. Oh, apologies, I've switched up the colors from what was on the stream, but Krill Switch is the orange team. Rabbit hole is the blue team. For some context, which is very important for clams. Clams like very heavily depends on the context of the match as a whole at large. The biggest thing is Rabbit Hole have scored a push. It's a big push, but doesn't really matter. The important thing is that Krill Switch have Pity Clam available to them, which gives them a good potential to score. Right now, it's not really doing much. It's good that they haven't picked it up, but it means that later down the line, and I mean, as you can probably guess, they're going to use that Pity Clam to help score their big push. The other thing as well is it's a little harder to see exactly the like consequences of this, and it's a bit more of a like finicky thing to try and keep track of in game. But because Rabbit Hole have just pushed, they sort of have expended all the clams near Krill Switch's basket. So they were like, you know, they picked up some clams that spawned here. I think there was some that spawned here. But you can generally see that on Krill Switch's side of the map, they have a couple clams on them, but there's not really any clams like this side of this line. They kind of, there's some clams about, but there's like a spawn here, there's some up here, there's a couple over here. So they're like all the clam spawns are currently on Rabbit Hole's side of the match, which is just something to note for now. It's like, it's relevant to keep in mind that there's not many clams on their side of the map. It's also good to keep in mind, and we'll talk about, I'll talk about this throughout the video, but it's something that, you know, I can't really say it every second, and it's an ever-changing thing in the match, is the total clam count. Right now, I don't think it really is at anything notable, but it's good to like throughout this video just keep track of roughly how many clams on the map, and I'll check in at various key points and highlight when it's important. But like, yeah, not something to keep in mind during this video. So at this stage, what have we got? 7 clams here, got 6 clams here, so it's 13. There's what, about another 10 here, and then there's a Pity Clam here. So what, 24 about, roughly on the map. And yes, the Pity Clam does count as a clam. Any clam that is active on the map, on the stage. If it despawns, it no longer counts, you know. So yeah, just something to keep in mind briefly. But I'll bring it up again shortly. So let's just let this play out. Just want to provide a bit of context to the build-up of the push before we got really into it. So here it's, you know, just whatever. Maybe I can honestly just fast forward. Okay, let's briefly check back into to the clam count, because some stuff has happened. Krill Switcher picked up a lot more clams, and a lot of them have been the clams that were on the map, like the clams that were here are gone, the clams, this edit's currently picking up some clams, and Rabbit Hole currently are holding less clams than they did before because they were dying, and you drop clams when you die, right? I wish I wrote down the exact time that this happens, but I think it's about now. One thing that people don't really understand about Clam Blitz is the way that the clams spawn on the map, right? So there's all these locations. It's pretty much mostly mirrored. Like, you can have clams spawn here, and in the reverse like spots as well. But the timing of when the clams actually spawn is something that people don't like really think about. How it works is clams will spawn in those like 3 pods. Those will spawn in 3s every 12-second interval. So at the start of the match, actually maybe I can go back to the start of the match just to demonstrate. But at the start of the match, they will spawn at, there will be one set of clams that spawns at 4:48. Forgive my mouse handwriting. And you'll see, like, we'll wait a bit. I don't exactly know where it's going to spawn, but we're waiting around, and at 4:48 we should see a clump of 3 somewhere. Yeah, here. So these clams spawn at 4:48. It's not always the same. It could be any one of the places that they can spawn. But yeah, it's every 12-second interval. And so the next set will spawn at 4:36. And then the next set will spawn at 24. And then it will go down to 4 minutes. And then it just like, you just get that loop again, right? You get the every 12 seconds. The 2 sort of ways you can manipulate the clam spawns, or at least understand them, is 1, the location of them, and 2, the timing of them. So we know that these clams have just spawned here at the 4:48 time. The next spawn time is going to be 4:36, and we also know the way that Clam Blitz works is if to make it fair for both teams, if one clam spawn happens in one location, the reverse is going to happen on is going to try to happen at the next time. So at 4:36, clams are going to try and spawn up here. The only reason they might not be able to if there's already like clams or a player blocking that spawn. But we don't really need to think about that too much. So I'll let it play out. But you'll see up here in a couple seconds the clams will spawn. Yeah. Oh, my location was slightly off, but you get the point. Clams will spawn up here. So that's how you can sort of vaguely understand the, like, you can vaguely predict the location of when where they're gonna spawn. Since these 2 have now spawned, I'm pretty sure it's just like random, so it'll pick another like set of spawns or like pairs of spawns, so it might be up here or something, and then it will do the next one like over here. Otherwise I'm pretty sure it's like, for the most part, random. But yeah, once it's gone through that pair phase, that's like kind of important. No, I got rid of my times. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. The other way you can like kind of manipulate clam spawns, and this is one that is way more important to this push, and I think people really underestimate, is let's say, so I think clams would have spawned at 212, then they will spawn at 20, and then they will spawn at 148, right? The clams spawn every 12-second interval. However, they will also spawn, they will get additional spawns if the clam count is below 20. And so that's the total clam count. So all the clams that the players are holding, all the clams that are on the floor right now, and all the power clams that are active. The power clam count as one single clam, by the way. If there's less than 20 clams total, at the times, at the 4-second interval in between, so in this case like 208 and 204, if there's less than 20 clams, they will go, the clam spawns will get accelerated, so they'll spawn at these times as well as the 12-second intervals. And well, you can sort of start to like piece together some of what I'm getting at. People very much underutilize the fact, and don't actually recognize the fact that clams will spawn quickly under certain circumstances. Which, you know, in a game mode where you're trying to score the most clams, if you can get more clams to spawn faster, then you have more clams to score, right? And so we'll see Krill Switch play in a way that, not sure if it's super intentional or not, but they'll put themselves into a position where they maximize the potential for fast spawn clams to occur, and that's really important. So, just quickly, let's do another clam count check, right? So we have 13 on the side of Krill Switch. We have there's like, actually maybe this is a bad time. There's a bunch of random ones just sitting about. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then the power clam, 12. So all up, there's what, 25 currently? So we're still at the we're still in this territory of greater than 20 clams. So we're getting these slower spawns. Let's write that. But you'll see in a second, I think a lot of these ones in the middle of the map are going to despawn. There might be some deaths that are going to occur. So we'll just wait around. Yep, lots going on. 204 passes. And then we're about to hit the 2-minute mark. One thing I wanted to highlight really quick, actually, maybe there was some spawn at 204. Let me just see. There was some spawn at 204, and I'll explain why in a second. There was none that spawned at 208. Let's pause at 206. And take stock of what's changed. So I think these clams haven't necessarily despawned, but they're some have been picked up. Right, we've got 5 on the side of Rabbit Hole, 14 on the side of Krill Switch. We've got 1 here, so that's what, at least 20, and there's a couple spotted around here. So we should be getting slow spawns. However, remember that the power clams only count as 1 clam for the sake of these spawning mechanics, right? However, they count as 8 for your score. So right now it looks like Krill Switch have 14 scoring clams, but in total they actually have 7, right? And so if we take that into account, there's 7 on Krill Switch's side, there's 5 on Rabbit Hole because they don't have a power clam. So it's 12. Another 1 power clam down here is 13, and I think there's like 3 or 4 just sitting right here. It's about what, 17, 18 clams, right? Which means though that we're now less than 20, so we are gonna get clam spawns at the 04 section, at the 04 time, right? And we can see that right there. Clams just spawned. And now that clams spawn there, actually I can't remember, they might spawn here. I can't remember if they spawned there just before, but they're good chance they're gonna spawn here. Yeah, it's important to recognize that it went below 20, and part of that reasoning was because, well, he's throwing it away, but the gal had made a power clam, and what that does is it turns your 8 individual clams into 1 clam for the sake of the clam count, which means you can like you can almost like switch on the accelerated spawning by creating a power clam at the right time. And so that's interesting, right? It gives you the potential, still the potential of scoring that many clams without taking up the like allocated space for clams to spawn. And that can have good and bad, like that can have good and bad implications. If you're wanting to create faster spawns, let's say you're trying to score and you want more clams, you probably, like, in some circumstances you might want to make a power clam so that your clams deplete faster, but you keep the scoring potential. Or if you're trying to defend, or you're trying to slow down the clam spawns, you maybe want to hoard more individual clams and then and not make a power clam so that you can keep the clam count on the map high, right? Yeah, so let's keep playing this out. I'm not going to focus too much, by the way, just on like how these players are playing, in the sense that, you know, I'm not going to analyze like they should have used their special here. I'm just mostly talking about the way that the clam spawn works, and I'll vaguely talk about like what the players are doing, but it's more in the context of what the objective is. Yeah. So, bit of a fuffle about trading out. One thing that Krill Switch is doing well is they're always got a good surplus of smaller clams, and although that contributes to a larger clam count, again, what that does is it gives you the potential to create a power clam to then lower the clam count, but it also means that like at any point they've got a lot of potential to score. You know, if suddenly they got a wipe, then they can pass around the smaller clams, create a power clam, score pretty quickly. Always in clam blitz, like general good rule of thumb is just like, if you don't know what to do, at least hold like 3 or 4 or 5 small clams. And so these guys do it pretty well. They make sure that everyone's got at least a few. Yeah. Let's once again take stock of the clam count, because it's about to change in just a second. Krill Switch have a lot on them. They've got what, 14 total between them of individual clams. These guys have 3, 17. There's at least these 3 here, and there's still the power clam sitting at pity clam sitting at base. So this is greater than 20 spawns. However, in just a second, I directed your attention to up here. Meat Boy with 7 clams goes down, and when you die in Clam Blitz, you drop. I can't remember the exact thing. I think it's half your clams rounded down, or it's something like that. You only drop a maximum of 3 clams, regardless. And so another way you can suddenly drop the clam count on the total stage is by killing someone with a lot of clams, or splatting someone with a lot of clams. So those 7 clams that the Luna had suddenly dropped to only 3 on the stage, and they're not picked up by anyone, but they still count. But those like 4 extra clams, they no longer count towards the like total counter. So that's another way you can like intentionally diminish the number of clams on the stage. And we'll talk about, I think there's like one other main way, which is maybe fairly obvious, but we'll talk about it in a second. Yeah, so we're just playing it out. Yada yada. Everyone's making sure to pick up some clams, which is good. Bit of a fight that happens, but most notably, the gal makes another power clam, which means, and the power clam is near the basket, so that once again suddenly drops the clam count. I'm pretty sure below 20. Let's do another quick count. We've got 1 here, got another 3 here, so 4, another here, 7, 8, 11. I think there's there's 12, 13, 14, and I think there's like at least 1 here. There might be like another beneath the names, but you get my point. Now, by creating that power clam, the clam count has dropped by 7, and that has ticked it below the less than 20, and yeah, has caused fast accelerated spawns. The other benefit. Oh, actually, we'll talk about this in just a second. I'll let the game play out a little bit more. So these guys play out. They finally get a kill. Like, they finally made their push. Right. And interesting enough, the power clam that's hard to see now, but was sitting here, is now like. Weirdly enough, there wasn't a huge downside to the power clam being created, and this is sitting here now. In terms of, because it means that even though the power clam was created and even if it wasn't scored and looks wasted, the trade of that is you create accelerated spawns for the rest of your team to be able to like recover the scoring potential that they had fairly quickly, right? And you can sort of start to see that Meat Boy, or the Luna, is taking advantage of the fact that there's a significant number of clams that are now spawning at a much faster rate. The benefit of it being here though is it's only got the clam count of 1, but it's got the scoring potential of like 8 clams, and so it's like really quite threatening. And this, I'm pretty sure it sticks around for 10 seconds if no one picks it up. So it's quite threatening. These guys eventually get a push. At the moment, they don't really look like they've got a lot, but again, this power clam is sitting here, and Meatball's, the Luna's going back to grab some more clams, and most notably, the gal that died. I can't remember if he died with Cool or not. Regardless though, the gal that died is now respawning and is gonna be able to grab the pity clam. This is the power of the pity clam. Is that you can almost, whoever's first in on a push can almost like trade their life so that they can then respawn and grab the power clam. And the interesting thing is, if the person trades their life in the same time that it takes for the enemy player to respawn and get to the basket to, help defend, it's the same amount of time that it takes like the respawning player to reach the pity clam and then click super jump to someone and then score those 20 points. It's very difficult to, like, you need very specific timings, or like 1 maybe 2 specials to stop a jump in from scoring, as long as they're close enough, like to score off the jump. So there's really like very little downside, and I think that this is something that a lot of people don't really take advantage of enough, especially when teams are playing cooler. Both these teams are playing cooler. You can very easily push up, try to score, like whether you open the basket or not, or your teammate does. You trade out, you die with cooler, you're back in like 4 seconds, not even. And then you can just run and grab the pity claim for an extra 20 points, which is so, like, that's a huge amount of points just for trading on a push to, like, getting a free 20 points. Sounds so ridiculous, right? And that's something that teams don't utilize enough. Intentionally, like, trying to trade out. I don't know if these guys did it intentionally, but regardless, keep in mind that you've got the pity claim there. If you trade out, like, you can still bring score to the table without, like, you know, you can still assist in the push without, like, yeah, bringing down the team too much. And so this comes into play. You'll see it just in a second. Like, they will jump in that clam. So let's switch to the score, and note the time is at 1:22. It's a very quick push. They score. The shot has already got a few clams on him. So well, they don't score exactly, but you get my point. They pick up the clam that was left there. The pity clam jumps in. That's another 20 points. They've scored 60 points in the matter of like 6 seconds. And in that time, they've scored 3 power claims, right? And currently the Lunas, they're all about to dump their clams. They've scored 3 power clams, and they're about to throw clams in the basket. Remember how I mentioned there's one other way of suddenly depleting the clam count? Is by scoring clams. As soon as these clams are thrown in the basket, they're not on the stage anymore. They're not counting towards the counter. And so actually, maybe we'll go back just like 1 second so we can see the next pod spawning. Part of the benefit of keeping the clam count low on throughout the rest of the stage is that, and making sure to pick up the clams that do spawn, is that if you're able to score and reduce the clam count below 20 by scoring, then you accelerate the clams that are gonna spawn for you to then score more, which is so ridiculous, right? So yeah, before we go any further, let's do another clam count check, right? So there's 1, 2, 8, 9 currently held by Krill Switch. I think there's about like 4 sitting under basket. I might be like slightly wrong. And then there's 6 here. So there's 19, maybe 20. So there might already be accelerated spawns. I actually think there is, but you'll see these guys will dump their clams, and the clam count will drop very, very quickly. Oh my god, so many explosions. Let's take as best stock we can right now. There's like maybe 3 clams here. Krill Switch currently are holding 2, so there's like what, 5? And there's 9 currently sitting here. So there's what, maybe 14 or 15. So we're definitely below 20, and you'll see, I mean, these guys will score, they'll throw even more clams in. At the 8-second interval, so the text was covering it up, these clams spawned. And then at the 4-second interval, these clams spawned. which was real convenient for the edit over here to just win the game. And yeah, so by creating scenarios where you have accelerated clam spawns when you're pushing, you can I wish I could, oh, here we go. Oh my god, my drawings look so silly. Yeah, by manipulating to the point where you can get accelerated spawns as you're scoring, like as you're looking for more clams to score with. The clams that the benefit of that is like you're spawning 3 clams every 4 seconds, and 3 clams in terms of the scoring counter, like you have a certain amount of time to score. 3 clams gives you 9 additional seconds to score more clams. But you don't need 9 additional seconds, you need 4 additional seconds, because then another set of 3 clams is going to spawn. And then at 4 seconds, another set of clams is going to spawn. It's not exactly perfect, you know, you might get clam spawns that, like, ideally you want them as close to the basket as possible, but you might get some that are a bit further out from mid. Which, you know, just happens, it's like part of the iron, like, the randomness of things. But if you remember at the start, or towards the start of this video, we were about here, right? I highlighted the fact that Krill have very little clams on their side of the map. This is sort of important because it means that if they're, it means that there's no random spawns that are taking up space in the clam counter. You know, if you're trying to get accelerated spawns and your clam count, and you've got like 6 clams just like sitting back randomly in your base, it's going to be really annoying to try to get that clam counter below 20, because you've got like an extra additional 6 that are like taking up that space. And so these guys do a very diligent job of making sure that they're picking up clams, and picking up clams, like, obviously it helps to score, but part of the big reason is so that you don't get spawns that will screw you over when you're actually looking to score. The other, like, sort of flip side of this is you could consider, like, what's the opposite end, right? The one extreme is that there's 0 clams on the map, so there's going to be fast spawns for the next, like, however many seconds, up until there's more than 20. The other side of things, the other extreme, is the maximum clam count. There's only a maximum of 40 that can be on the stage, and if you get to the point where there's and they'll spawn at this slower rate. If you get to the point where there's like 39 on the stage, in some regard, and another set of 3 tries to spawn, it will only spawn one of those 3, right? It's never gonna have a max, like, it's never gonna have over 40. That's why the 20 mark is important, because it's half of 40. I think in Splatoon 2, it was actually 50 and 25 respectively. But I think they did that because the amount of clams you needed to create a power clam was 10, and also clams would spawn in spawns of 4 rather than 3. So I think they've just like reduced things a little bit to accommodate for that. But yeah, for this game it's a maximum of 40. And you sort of might think like, okay, if there's the other extreme is, okay, we're going to get slow spawns, but there's already so many clams on the stage that we can potentially score from. Like, instead of us needing to score by waiting for more clams to spawn, we can just score with the clams that are already on the stage. Which sort of like makes some sense, right? It's like it's something to think about, you know, if you're questioning this game mode. But if there's 40 clams on the stage, there's a good chance that that's because all of these spawns are taken up. There's like probably a good chunk of people that are currently carrying clams, but a lot of it is going to be because there's just so many clams on the stage itself. And so when you're looking to score, let's say we're Krill switch in this scenario. If we're looking to score and we're scoring some clams, and we go back and we grab these ones, and we grab these ones, and we grab these ones, the ones on the side of the map that we're trying to score on aren't going to replenish fast enough. And so we're going to get to the point where, like, all the clams that we are thinking, like, oh, there's so many clams on the map, we can just score those, they're actually on the other side of the map. So you don't have time to go back for them. It's going to be too slow. You're not going to keep the basket open. That's why, generally speaking, it's important to understand this accelerated spawning mechanic, because it is what gives you the opportunity to do these huge 100-0 knockout pushes, or even just pushes to like 60-70 points, and you can do like 2 of them and you win. Yeah, so that's like, it's really important to understand the accelerated spawn mechanics and understand when you're getting them, or like when you can give yourself the potential of getting them. Interestingly enough, different stages will have, every stage feels very different with clams, because different stages not only have different spawn locations, but they also have different spawn location amounts. So I think the lowest amount is Eeltail Alley. You can actually get, there's so little spawn locations on Eeltail Alley that you almost have to try to not make clams spawn at the accelerated rate. That like it's so unlikely that there will be over 20 clams that like part of the strategy around Eeltail clams is like intentionally trying to make it slower for when you're defending rather than making it faster for when you're attacking, because you will just get it faster automatically almost every time. Whereas there's some barnacle is a decent example. I think there's like 16 locations or something. Like there's a lot of locations, so unless if you're not diligent enough in picking up clams, you're gonna be stuck in slow spawn territory. And so yeah, every stage is very different, and you kind of have to play it somewhat differently. But yeah, that's mostly what I wanted to talk about. The last thing I maybe wanted to mention, which doesn't really have too much to do with the clam mechanics, but just the way that these guys built up their push, was they had this power clam sort of sitting around on their edit for a while. Normally speaking, I don't like the idea of creating a power clam prematurely, right? I think sometimes it diminishes your flexibility in a push, because you've sort of got one guy who can't hold smaller clams. And it also creates some risks in the sense that like this guy's always highlighted for everyone on their screen. However, I think it sort of works for this setup though, because maybe I'll just go back a few seconds. Because what they're sort of able to do is the edits be able to sit up on this kind of like high ground plat area, and is not at too much risk. And is being very patient with it, which is good. You don't want to like prematurely score. What this does is it threatens the potential to score, even though they're not actively scoring, and that just puts a lot more pressure on the rabbit hole, like these blue team, because they can't. The objective stays around here. They can't force the objective by like going for a flank or like cutting off clams that are here, because these guys already have enough clams to like start a score. So it puts a lot of pressure on, and they have to like be ready for the ball to the power clam to be scored at any moment, kind of thing. And it puts them under a lot of pressure. But Krill Switch does a good job of like building up that pressure and waiting for the right time to score this power clam. Granted that they can keep it safe, you know, granted that they can abuse this high ground a little bit and hold things back. Yeah, I don't mind too much that they had one power clam, and I won't highlight it now, but if you go back and watch, they create the power clam when they're sort of in control of this region of the map. They don't do it when they're like all the way back here, which makes it harder to escort the power clam if the further back you make it. And they only try to save one power clam. Like, they're not trying to make everyone a power clam, you know. They're just trying to have some like presence threatening a score, but also have a good like bit of flexibility in that as well. Yeah, so with all this build up, let's I guess watch what unfolds. Oh my god, how do I go to the other one? Yeah. Oh my numbers. So this is what sort of unfolds. They score that power clam, the gal is respawning, grabs the pity clam, jumps it in, they have enough clams to score another power clam. They're dumping all these clams in, getting fast spawns, dumping more clams in, like trading out, getting fast spawns. And the brutalness of a fast push like this is like, blue team doesn't even have time to respawn. Like, that is how fast this score comes in. Getting more. Fast spawns up here. And like, that's game. It's quite a magnificent push. Yeah, so I don't actually know how long I've been yapping for. Let me check. It's gonna be like, ooh, 50 minutes. Awesome. Yeah, so that was a lot, but I hope, you know, I really wanted to do this video. I've been looking at this for a while now. I've been trying to implement this into playing, but I haven't really been playing with the team, so it doesn't like work too much. But the people I have like tried to implement this sort of stuff with, sometimes when we play clams, it's just awesome. Like, you get some insane pushes. Like, it feels like it genuinely. I love this game mode. At least at present time, because, and I think people should play it and try to learn it, because people don't understand it. Nobody really capitalizes off of it. Like, there's people just like rock up and play this mode so poorly. And so hopefully this video was somewhat informative in some way, shape or form. I'm sure I've missed something that I probably wanted to talk about. But yeah, for the most part, like, this is, yeah, I've been wanting to talk about this stuff for a while. So if you learned something from it, that's awesome. If not, if you just listen, that's awesome too. If no one's here, that's awesome. It helps me to do it by myself anyway. So, yeah, thanks for watching.